Tonight I wanted to talk to you about something a little bit different. I started my Cummins Explorer project car quite a while ago, before I ever even started YouTube in fact. And since beginning the project, my life situation kind of changed such that I couldn't just keep throwing money at new parts for the project. So, as you've seen in the videos thus far, I've been trying to do it as cheaply as possible, and that's going to continue until the project's finished. Now, my experience in trying to build this rather extravagant project car for as cheap as possible, I thought might be informative to somebody else who might be trying to do something similar. So I thought today I would perhaps introduce people to different ways of doing this for cheaper who might not know. Honestly, I've seen a lot of posts online where people will say, where do I find this, and where do I find that, and where do I find this? And a lot of people will just give them one solution, like, oh, go to eBay or go to Craigslist or something. And I think it's important to know what's out there and available. The first thing I wanted to talk about was junkyards. They're not all created equal. For example, at my local junkyard where they pull the parts for you and everything, I've looked at transmissions and transfer cases and even engines there, and those components seem to be more expensive sometimes even than buying new parts. So I personally don't know if I would recommend a regular junkyard over something like a U-pull. So let's talk about U-pull. If you're trying to build a car on the cheap, one thing that you can do is you can trade your time for money. If you're willing to go in and do the work, then you can save a whole heck of a lot of money on these parts. Here's the price list of my local U-pull, and you'll see some of this stuff is kind of ridiculous. For example, engines. They're between $150 and $225 each. A diesel engine's $250. Let's look at transmissions. $100 for any transmission, transfer case $75. All this stuff is incredibly cheap, and I'm sure people know that junkyards are a really cheap way to get parts, but I personally didn't realize how much of a difference there was between like a U-pull and a regular junkyard. $75 for a transfer case here. When I went to my normal yard where they pull it for you, they wanted close to $1,000 for their transfer case. And of course, I'm not sponsored by U-pull or any crazy thing like that, but I just wanted to point out that the little bit of a sacrifice in you doing the work adds a huge savings. Now, obviously, the biggest downside, other than you having to pull it yourself from a U-pull, is they might not have what you need. I think the solution to that is that you can just get creative with the types of parts you're using. Nobody wants a twin traction beam axle. So what I decided to do was to use a twin traction beam because they're in junkyards everywhere, and that's why for around $200 I was able to get a really solid 3/4 ton truck front axle for my car, where otherwise it would have been like $1,500. And the other advantage is that even if you get bad parts, quote bad parts, from a U-pull, you could potentially just rebuild those parts, and now you have a refurbished component for an incredibly cheap price. Here, let me show you. Let's say that I needed like an NV4500, a 5-speed transmission for the project I'm working on. Now, if I were able to find one of those in a U-pull, that's only $130. If I look at Rock Auto, this rebuild kit for that transmission is only $140. So if I could say find a transmission for $400 on Craigslist or whatever, and then put this rebuild kit in for $140, $550, and that's a refurbished transmission. So if I look at an NV4500 on eBay, $1,400, $2,000, etc., and keep in mind these ones aren't including the bell housing, and I personally had to pay $500 or $600 for a bell housing, so it's a good idea to get one when you pick these up. But if you're able to rebuild the part yourself, you might save yourself another $1,000 right there. You could do it for much less if you're willing to take the time to learn how to refurbish one yourself. And that's a good skill to have anyways. If all you have is time and not money, why not teach yourself how to refurbish a transmission? There's another site I wanted to talk about real quick, and I'll say it again, none of these sites are sponsoring me in any way. One website that I think more people should know about is mcmaster. It's more of an industrial website, If you buy things on mcmaster, expect to pay a lot more for them. They're not going to tell you the shipping beforehand because industrial clients don't care. They just want it as quick as possible. The shipping's probably going to be expensive. It's going to come in, where I live, 2 days. Every single time it comes in 2 days. My old job, we had a plant in California where it would literally show up the same day because mcmaster has a warehouse in California. Their shipping is amazing, but expensive. They have anything you could imagine. So let's say I need a bolt, but I don't just need a normal bolt, I need a carriage bolt, and I need it specifically to be, let's say, 3/16, and I need it to be 4-inch long, 1/2-inch 30. mcmaster is the place I go when I need something very, very specific. Another good example would be heim joints. These are all the types of heim joints they have, everything you could imagine. And what I ended up going with on my build was these heim joints here, 3/4 16, their static capacity is 9,400 pounds, $10 a piece. Now again, shipping's kind of expensive and everything else, but you can get these in all the shanks you want and everything else. So if I ever need something very, very specific, like I'm building some type of mechanical contraption and I need choice, and cost isn't as expensive as the choice, I'll end up going to mcmaster. And I really do think more people should know about it. They have everything you need. I've never had a problem with them shipping residential. Again, they're pretty ubiquitous in industry, but for some reason, I don't see people in the private sector using them as much as they should. I think most people would resort to Amazon instead. And my issue with Amazon is that if I need something with any specificity at all, they almost never have it. Their prices are usually good, but if they have a bolt, they have it in one size or in one grade or in one material. They're not gonna let me choose all 3 of those. And if I try, it'll be expensive. So let me just sum up real quick the places that I personally go to source components and why I would go there. I would go to Craigslist if I don't mind waiting for something to pop up, because usually the first time you look on Craigslist, it's not there. If I need something very specific, but I still need it to be cheap and I don't mind waiting for shipping, I would usually go to eBay. If I need something today and I don't need it to be the cheapest thing possible, but I do need it today, then I would go somewhere like a traditional junkyard, or of course, if it's material, I would go to my local Tractor Supply or Cal Ranch or industrial supplier, or even hardware store like Lowe's or something if it's metal or hardware, but typically hardware stores are kind of expensive and they don't have what you need. It's better to go to a more industrial store. If I need something really cheap that isn't that desirable, I would go to a U-pull. Honestly, a U-pull would be my first go-to on most things if they actually have it. If I need something that's a new product or like a rebuild kit or something like that, and I need it, and it can be very, very specific, if I need it for cheap, I'll go to Rock Auto. If I need something incredibly specific, like materials or components or something for fabrication in general, not necessarily for the car itself, if I need something very specific and don't mind paying a lot more, then I'll go to mcmaster. That's how I tend to source my parts. I think it's important to know what's out there and available so that you can spend your time when you want to spend your time, or spend your money when you need to spend your money. So I hope you found this video helpful. I know that a lot of this most people probably already knew, but if there's anybody here that's new to fabrication and new to building project cars and stuff like that, then I hope there was something in this video that was helpful to you. If there was something useful to you, then please like, comment, tell me what you thought. If you want to see me continue my Cummins Explorer project, then please subscribe and stick around. And either way, thank you for watching.